He's allowed no contact visits with his family. He has grandchildren that he's never been allowed to touch.
We're trying to make a stand, and we're making a stand now, and I appreciate every last one of you, and the people that had to leave, I do understand, because I believe all of you have families, and there's no right to take somebody's father from them, or let alone just give my father another trial. All we're asking is justice. Mumia was not a violent man, never was. So all we want to do is give him another try. Thank
you. He's charged with murdering a police officer. It's all false evidence. He was never given a fair trial. He was never given a good lawyer. He dismissed his lawyer. His lawyer was just out of law school. Come on, it's the biggest travesty.
We have to continue to organize and organize.
But I am somewhat familiar with the Mumia Abu-Jamal case.
Yeah, what do you know about it?
Well, basically I know that he was arrested for killing an officer during the first move incident, not the second, and that he's been on death row basically since then. And I'm hoping that all of this that people are doing right now will definitely help him to be free.
The MOVE organization, I'm a MOVE member. My name is Ramona Africa, and I'm Minister of Communication for the MOVE organization. And MOVE people are not going to sit back idly and quietly while this government plans premeditated murder, plans to murder an innocent man. Mumia is our brother, whether people know it or not. He is all of our brother. And we're not going to sit back and watch this government kill him. We're going to do everything possible to save Mumia's life, to bring our brother home.
He didn't kill a cop. And it's nice that he got a lot of support. A lot of people behind him. It's beautiful. If I wasn't working today, I'd be right in that crowd walking with him.
That is beautiful.
We came out to show our support.
Mumia. All right, did you need us?
We all left work.
We might get fired, but we came out.
We're supposed to be working, but we left work to support Mumia.
We came out to
free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Brick by brick, wall by wall.
What does Mumia mean to you?
Well, I'm just here to learn about what his struggle is. Personally, I don't think he has any real personal meaning in my life.
Well, I think because Mumia speaks about a lot of issues that impact a lot of people, and I think that, well, first and foremost, because he's a political prisoner, and that affects all of us, no matter who we are. And I think if we let them kill him, then it could be any of us, you know.
Mumia is important to me because he's a symbol of all liberation movements, and he's been driven out of the public view, and he's going to be killed for his views, and for standing up and fighting for the people who don't have a voice. That's why this is important to me.
He's important because in Europe, the death penalty is a thing of the past. He's important because in Europe he's recognized as a great writer. He's important because in Europe his writings are studied in schools. He's important because he's a gentle person and he's innocent. He's important because he's become a symbol against the death penalty in the greatest democracy, so-called democracy in the world.
A lot of them rich kids are the kids in that grade. And people like, not all the guys, the kids in this grade don't understand it like me and you do. You live in the city. I can't believe how many people there are. How many think there are so far? 40,000? There was 1,500 down there out of the Blue Day game. March was.
That Mumia's case is one of the greatest cases of police brutality and the miscarriage of justice in the history of this country. And we believe that we must struggle not only to free Mumia, but Mumia represents thousands of other people who have been victimized by police brutality and judicial misconduct. He is the symbol. So as we fight to free him, We also fight to free all of those who've been victimized by injustice in this country.
What does Mumia mean to you? What does Mumia mean to you?
Black man. What's up?
Mumia first came to public attention, or at least to the attention of the police, when he was 14 years old, as he was one of the leaders of a campaign to rename Benjamin Franklin High School after Malcolm X here in Philadelphia. He accumulated an FBI surveillance file beginning then that runs over 600 pages. He was one of the founders of the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia, and worked on the West Coast in their national newspaper. He then came back to Philadelphia, where he began a career as a radio journalist. The incident in which he was arrested is a rather strange one. He was driving a cab, moonlighting to support his family at night, and he came upon a situation in the red light district south of downtown in Philadelphia, where the police had stopped his brother for a traffic violation, and he saw a white police officer beating his brother, and he ran over to intervene or see what was happening, and the street was full of people because the bars had just let out. A whole big altercation ensued, gunfire broke out, and in the end, Mumia was laying on the street, shot in the stomach. He almost died. A police officer who was beating his brother was shot and killed. The brother was standing nearby, bloody from the attack that had happened to him. And when other police arrived, they just assumed that Mumia was the perpetrator.
I got beaten like Rodney King in December 17, 1994. I know, and I got charged for assaulting a police officer.
They beat him viciously, drove him around for 45 minutes before taking him to the hospital in the hopes that he would die.
They came over my house. I took too long to listen, so they started beating on me. Once I was down, they took the club and hit me 6 straight times in my head. You can see the scar right here over my lip, one side. They knocked off my tooth. This Philadelphia for you. The city that loves you back. City of brotherly love. The hard way.
And not only was he arrested and beaten, when he woke up in the hospital, he was in intense pain because one of the officers guarding him was standing on the urine bag below his bed, forcing urine back up into his bladder, into his kidneys. He'd been almost a constant victim of police brutality. Mumia had that summer been covering the trial of John Africa in Philadelphia and had been greatly impressed by the activities of the MOVE people and their staunchness in standing up to the authorities and refusing to buckle under and to give in and capitulate.
Mumia was the only journalist who did one simple thing. He not only told the police version of confrontations with police and police, activity, but he came to MOVE and he, got what we had to say, and he put out everything. He put out what the police were saying, and he put out what MOVE was saying. That is something that had never been done. Mumia not only did commentaries on MOVE, but on issues, around the globe, and on issues, of police brutality, police corruption, judicial corruption, what was going on with poor people. That's why Mumia was called the voice of the voiceless.
As a result of this, the city hated him. He had actually asked an antagonistic question of Mayor Rizzo at a press conference only a month or two before, and led the mayor to threaten the journalists who were present at the press conference. And as a result, the police decided to actually pin this murder on Mumia.
So it is no flaw that for 17 years I've been on that road, because I'm a black genius who chose not to be a safe Negro. But they'll have you believe it's because I shot some copper. But how could I be the murderer when my gun was of a different caliber?
His trial was so grotesquely unfair, even if he's guilty. It was unfair. Witnesses were coerced. The police confessions were totally unbelievable.
His case was characterized by fabrication of evidence, by the withholding of evidence from the defense, by the intimidation of witnesses, and also by coercing and bribing witnesses to lie. One of the principal witnesses against him was a prostitute who has since disappeared, that they basically gave a get-out-of-jail-free card to. After she testified that Mumia was the shooter, every time she was arrested after that, the police would show up in court and ask that she be released without paying any bail, and that's what happened.
I'll be as specific as I can. Gary Walksall, I believe, lied. He perjured himself for saying he remembered the confession 2 months after it happened, and that he didn't realize how important it was the day it happened. I think that's a lie.
Who was that again, Gary?
His name was Gary Walksall. He was a police officer who originally wrote in his report that the Negro male made no comments. 62 or 64 days later, he went, "Oh, I do remember, he confessed."
But this is not a flaw. As my case is 2 months in session before cops remember their confession. As legal perjury is performed to a biased jury, while the judge dismisses defense witnesses when the brother did see 2 other men flee. Can you spell conspiracy?
Yeah, we can. But you know, normally when a court in this country at the appellate level looks at a trial in which there have been such obvious and grievous flaws, they say, well, look, there were some problems, there were some mistakes made, maybe this was not right or that was not right, but on balance, it wouldn't have made any difference if they had been done right, and so on. That's not what this court said. What this court said is that every judicial proceeding that Mumia Abu-Jamal has gone through has been perfect. They said that every single witness who was brought forward by Mumia's defense team, lied and was unbelievable, including those who said to people and testified as to who actually did do the shooting, and seeing people running from the scene. They said that every single witness that the police brought forward was absolutely credible and told the police the truth, including those witnesses who were obviously changed their stories from what they originally told police officers, and it's in the written record, and including those people who received obvious favors from the police for changing their story. This is a case in which they found that Judge Sabo is not only not biased against Mumia throughout this entire case, and any of you who ever sat for 5 minutes in the courtroom knows what a crock of shit that is, but they said that he ruled correctly on every single motion where he denied the Mumia's attorneys the opportunity to bring new evidence into court. They said that there was no problem whatsoever with knocking 10 prospective jurors off the venue using peremptory challenges just because they were black, even though this has been outlawed by the U.S. Supreme Court. And they said there was no problem whatsoever in reading from interviews with Mumia about his membership in the Black Panther Party as an argument for why he should be put to death, even though the Supreme Court had outlawed that procedure in another case involving a white prisoner who had belonged to the white Aryan Nation, Aryan Brotherhood gang. And not only that, and this is a little unknown fact about that case, the case of Dawson in Delaware, when the Delaware Supreme Court said, yes, it's okay to use political affiliations and political statements as an argument for a death penalty, what case did the Delaware Supreme Court cite as a precedent? They cited the case of Commonwealth versus Mumia Abu-Jamal, and said that if it could be done in Mumia's case, then it could be done in Dawson's case. The Supreme Court rejected that entire argument. But then what does the Pennsylvania Supreme Court say? Oh, that doesn't apply in Mumia's case. And perhaps most incredible of all, when it got to the 600 plus pages of FBI documents that were brought into the court that had been obtained by the Freedom of Information Act, showing that Mumia had been under observation by the Philadelphia police and the FBI since he was 14 years old, they said it was perfectly proper to bar this evidence from the court. Why? Because there was no authentication that these actually were FBI documents. Well, that's the level to which this situation has sunk. And the fact that every single point that Mumia raised in his appeal was denied stamps this decision with the fact that this is not a judicial review. It was a political decision. A political decision made at the highest levels in this country to attempt to carry through the execution of Mumia Abu-Jamal.
But all this is not a flaw. For in this country, conspiracy is not theory. Conspiracy is law.